The following is a presentation of TFNN. Mindful Living with Allie Ford and Tom O'Brien.
Sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah. I get a feeling that I never had before. No, I get a good feeling, yeah.
Call now, toll free at 1-877-927-6648. Internationally at 727-445-1044. Now, Allie Ford and Tom O'Brien.
Namaste and welcome to Mindful Living, everybody. It's Allie Ford and Tom O'Brien, and we want to help you get healthy, feel good, and live life to the fullest every single day. Thanks for joining us on this sunny and breezy 87-degree day here in Tampa Bay, Florida.
No, it's African hot. The heat come in.
It is.
No
you got to
doubt.
just stay near a body of water. I mean, it's beautiful out there, but, you know, it's getting hot. We're not even at the peak of the season yet.
Right. But it was a great May and June. I mean, that's the reality. It's July.
And it is. It's almost July 4th.
July 4th.
Which
what
is
a beautiful thing that is.
I know. I'm looking forward to it. Although...
I bet you are. It's Allie's birthday, July 4th.
Oh, come on. I was more excited about the United States of America's birthday.
Totally. Special day.
It is a special day. It's funny. I thought the fireworks were for me until I was like 4.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, until my older brother, you know, completely like let me have the reality.
But now they are. Now you can say they are.
It's all based on perception. Sure,
Right.
It's a matter of perspective. It's all for me. It's my birthday.
Perfect.
You know, it's funny. Kids ask the darndest questions. My son asked me how old America was. How old is America turning?
Smart.
I know, and it made me think.
that.
Of course, I remembered, thank goodness, that the Declaration of Independence was signed.
Right. That's
in
only because they had that 200th anniversary that we all know, I think.
Right,
They did so much publicity, right?
So it's 238 years.
Cool.
And then my daughter asked, well, how old is the Statue of Liberty, Mommy? And I was like, I'm going to have to Google that one.
Thank God for Google.
I know.
Yeah, right.
I rely on Google so much these days.
Totally.
So when I think of Independence Day,
Yes.
I think of red, white, and blue. I like to go all out because it's my birthday and it's been a tradition every year. And I have to say, I've been wearing red, white, and blue since yesterday's.
I know. Where's mine?
I know. I should have given you a heads up. Wear your red, white, and blue. People can feel your patriotism.
Totally.
Come on, Tom.
Seriously.
But how about that USA Portugal? I mean,
I know.
the game
Belgium.
Mr. Not Portugal,
Yeah.
Belgium.
Right.
It was so crazy.
Right.
Oh,
2
my
to 1.
God.
Yeah.
We went to this great place in Dunedin, Florida, which it was called the Clear Sky Draft House.
Yes.
Yeah, Draft
Yes.
House. So good, by the way. I highly recommend. The food was so good. And it was packed. We went 30 minutes early to get a table and luckily got the last table in the whole place.
Oh, cool.
It was so much fun. I mean, I've never seen Americans get so excited about soccer. And the whole place was chanting, USA. Well, everybody had their face painted. My skin is stained red from USA. I had on my cheek.
Nice.
Got my nails red, white.
The Nielsen ratings came out today, and that was the most second-watched show. The first one was the one in Portugal, but that was on a Sunday. But they're figuring that yesterday more people actually watched it because more people were watching it in offices and in bars and all the above.
It was a great game, I tell you. So, you know, practicing a little non-attachment, and since the U.S. isn't through, we have to choose our next favorite. Who's your next favorite?
I don't have one.
You don't?
No.
Oh, well, see, you're tried and true, red, white, and blue. Well, my husband lived in Brazil 5 years.
Oh,
so
okay,
Brazil is definitely at the top of our list. His heritage is Dutch, so Holland is at the top of the list.
And Holland's done well.
I know. They're all still in.
Yeah, right.
And then my son's best friend is from Colombia.
Oh,
so
cool.
it's Brazil-Colombia this Friday.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Oh, that's going to be intense.
It's going to be intense.
Right.
So we all have
That's
somebody
good.
to pull for.
No, totally.
Yeah. So, listen, when I think of independence, I also think of freedom. And today we're going to be talking about something that is really important, and it's the great promise of yoga.
Okay.
And that is freedom from suffering. And, you know, yoga gives us many practices that anybody can use to overcome the suffering in life. So today we're going to be discussing some of the healthy habits known as the yamas and niyamas, or ethical standards, that yoga practitioners often choose to adopt, which inform how they live their lives and how they treat others and the environment, and which can help to make the world a better place.
And so does this come off the old Sanskrit deal? Is it this is where this comes from, right?
This is ancient stuff.
Okay,
So this
right.
the yamas and niyamas, part of the 8 limbs. These are the first 2 limbs, or I guess you could consider them as steps toward freedom of suffering, and there are 8. We're going to talk about the first 2 in general today. And yeah, they're from an old text known as the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali,
Oh, sure, right.
which was written around 150 BC.
BC.
BC. And what's so cool, what I love to talk about is how they still apply to our life today.
Yes.
Which is, it's interesting.
So everything's changed and nothing's changed.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. We're still human beings, still facing similar challenges. And, you know, as yoga says, that we can either exacerbate suffering or even create suffering in our mind.
Right.
Or
That's easy.
Yeah.
That's easy to
real
do.
easy.
Yeah,
And I'm sure
right.
it was just the same, you know, thousands of years ago
Right.
as it is today. That's why so many people are using tools given to us by yoga. Like we talk about all the time, like, you know, yoga practice, deep breathing, and meditation, which
Right.
is huge, of course, as you know, in the financial market as well.
Absolutely.
To overcome stress. And so, yeah, I think it's really interesting to look at this philosophy, which is thousands of years old, how it's still so applicable to our lives today. And yet, you know, much about the yoga practice has changed, particularly how people are practicing yoga.
Right.
But if you refer to the ancient texts, it still really, really applies. So it's very
And
cool.
in the ancient text, right, my understanding is, was it all guys then? How did this work?
It was. Yoga
Right.
was created by men, for men, and only men
And
were
why was
allowed
that?
to
Do you know?
practice. It was, you know, in India, which is where yoga's from, you have the caste system,
Yes.
which is kind of like your, you know, highest class and
Right.
your lowest class. There were 4 castes in India.
Yes.
Some people still practice that today, but yoga being a very important ancient science of yoga,
Yes.
of India, excuse me, it was reserved for the highest class.
That's interesting.
And yeah, and those are men. They happen to be Brahmin priests.
It's Brahmin priests. So it's almost like, it's interesting because the Masons here, well, not here, in the whole world, basically, when they learned how to, I mean, the Masons is an organization, but they really learned how to mix mortar and make bricks to make buildings. That was a secret forever. And
Right.
they still say it's a secret society, but the reality is that was power.
Exactly.
It was power.
Yeah, and
So-
it's interesting how, you know,
Yeah.
it's to do manual physical labor isn't in general considered higher
Right, well,
class
no one
work.
could figure out how to make buildings. Once they figured out how to make a building, that's why they were so powerful.
Yeah.
They could actually do the bricks, make the building.
Seriously, yeah, very respected, and they still should be so respected because
Sure.
let's face it, like who's doing the hands-on work these days is making it all happen.
That's a fact.
So when we talk about the 8 limbs of yoga, you know, it's interesting because when you think of people doing yoga, what would you say most people think about and how we practice yoga today? What do you see people doing? You go to a yoga studio and you...
It's physical.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's physical.
right.
And it's interesting because that's where most people are starting their yoga practice today.
That would make sense, right?
It does because of the changing times. You know, I mean, actually, the physical practice of yoga, known as asana, is actually the 3rd step or the 3rd limb
Is
of
it?
yoga, not
Oh,
the 1st.
wow. Oh.
However, if first of all, you know, if you look back at Krishnamacharya, who was the guru of all gurus, he's the reason we're all practicing yoga today. He's this really well-known teacher from India. He said for yoga to survive, it would have to change with the changing needs of its practitioners.
Sure.
So in other words, it would have to evolve. And, you know, life is so busy these days that we need physical activity to just start to get in touch with ourselves, you
Right.
know, and take care of ourselves. And as my guru said, Patabi Joyce, if you have a weak body, then you probably have weak principles. So, you know, I think that there's a lot of insight in that statement. If you look at how somebody's treating themselves,
Yes.
if they're unhealthy,
Yeah,
they're
it's heavy.
probably feeling pretty bad,
Right.
which probably informs how they treat other people, you know?
It's a non-caring deal.
Exactly.
That's a heavy statement, but the fact is that can turn into that, for sure.
Exactly.
Right.
And when you look at the first 2 steps of yoga, the yamas and niyamas have specifically address our ethics, how we treat others. That's the
Right.
first limb, the yamas. And then personal purification practices known as the niyamas. That's the 2nd step. The 3rd step, the physical practice, would be an extension of that 2nd step. But, you know, again, the modern day yoga teachers started with the 3rd because they said, how are you going to be aware of how you're treating others if you can't even take care of yourself? So, Pattabhi Jois, the guru of Ashtanga, was really well known for saying, if you went to his door and said, I want to learn yoga, he'd say, you coming tomorrow morning, 4:30 a.m. Whip your bleep into shape, you know?
Right.
Because he wanted to teach you some discipline.
Right.
And let's face it, it requires a lot of discipline to be aware of ourselves so much that we feel it when we're not treating others kindly.
No doubt. And what it does happen with the physical practice is that you're getting into the mental and spiritual practice because the focus is there too, right? I mean, it's an easier way to basically say, okay, what is all of this?
Totally. Yeah. You start with something really tangible. That's the third limb, you know, the physical practice. I mean, you get in there, and at first we might, start seeing it as just a physical, I'm going to do some push-ups, or I'm going to do a handstand and get really strong and really fit. But as you take this physical practice and you start to see how you feel, notice how you feel physically. Am I healthy? Is there pain in my body I've been ignoring all these years? Or do my knees hurt? Do my hips hurt? Do my shoulders hurt? Is my spine healthy? So it starts with the physical, right? And then through that we develop self-awareness. And as we become self-aware, then that awareness goes more inward. We become more introspective. So you start with the physical, right? Taking care of your physical body. And as you adopt any sort of exercise program, I think you just feel, boy, it didn't feel so good when I went out and had, those 2 cheeseburgers.
Oh, that makes a difference.
6-pack of beer before I did my exercise today.
There's no doubt.
So maybe you become more aware of what you're eating. And then you notice yourself energetically. Am I exhausted all the time? Am I wearing myself out? Am I burning the candle at both ends? Am I getting enough sleep? Even more into that sort of energetic layer of ourselves. Once we feel pretty physically good, but energetically, how am I feeling? You might notice that emotionally you're a little off, and what is that? What's the reason for that? Am I in the right job?
Right.
Am I hanging around the right types of people who support the health and wellness in my life? And so it's interesting how what we begin as a very physical exercise can evolve into a much deeper sort of exploration of ourselves.
Now, when you finished your teacher training last week.
Yes.
There was a lot of, so I'm sure you saw a lot of difference, because that's a full month of intensive, right?
Definitely.
So you saw a lot of difference in those guys and women when they were finishing, yes?
Yeah, I think, everybody's on their own path.
Yes.
Everybody evolves at their own pace, as they should. We have to do this, do the work ourselves. But just in that 1 month, I saw people go from sort of a lack of confidence to building confidence. I saw people who were afraid to even speak out and ask questions get up and teach a yoga class, let their voice be heard, Some people talked about the way they were eating and how they wanted to just look at that a little more closely, what types of food or poison or not poison am I putting in my body?
Yes.
All kinds of transformation happens when you start practicing a little self-reflection, and that's what yoga fosters. So it's interesting, as I say, we start with that third limb, the physical practice, and as we become more healthy and feel better, then it's only natural that we start to act better toward others. And that's actually the first limb of yoga. So then by the third limb, the first two start to develop. So that first limb of yoga is called yama.
Yama.
Yeah, so that's, Sanskrit is the language of yoga. It's an ancient language.
Sure.
Not really used anymore for conversation, but definitely for study. It's a scholarly language.
Well, I was just reading an article. They're trying to, in India, get a lot more people back into that, because the statistic, it's really a small statistic. I mean, India has billions of people, and I think it's only like in the thousands that can speak Sanskrit right now.
Who can actually speak the language.
Yeah, so they're trying to get at least some other people interested in speaking it. Yes.
Yeah, it's really cool, because Sanskrit, being the oldest language in India, has given rise to many other languages. In fact, India has more languages across the country than any other language. But two countrymen who revert to Sanskrit, who normally wouldn't be able to speak in their native language, could speak if they revert to Sanskrit. It's been so well preserved through study.
Interesting.
So it is interesting. When we come back, we'll get into the yamas. We're at 877-927-6648. Give us a call. Join in the conversation. Be right back.
In quiet markets, investors search for new trading opportunities. We'd like to introduce you to a new product that provides opportunities even in flat markets. Nadex, the North American Derivatives Exchange, is a new and innovative Chicago-based exchange registered with the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, and unlike most other exchanges, Nadex allows you to trade directly through them with direct market access when using their trading platform. Nadex never charges a fee to use their platform, which even includes real-time charts and full customization capability. Nadex's unique short-term binary options allow traders and investors to capitalize on strategies even when the underlying markets are quiet. Nadex's innovation has allowed them to come up with a line of unique trading products that are unavailable anywhere else. See how it works at nadex.com. That's NADEX.com, or click on the Nadex banner on the front page of TFNN.com. Futures and options trading involves risk and may not be appropriate for all investors.
We're told to follow our passion and everything else will fall into place. I hope that's what each of you are doing each and every day. Hi, I'm Steve Rhodes, host of the Money Master Show at TFNN.com, and my passion for technical analysis is what led me to the most fundamental discovery in pattern recognition, the Rhodes Momentum Indicator, market scanner, and trading strategy, a set of tools that identify the momentum and power of the trend, the likes of which have never been seen before, for every market and every time frame. Yes, folks, the trend is your friend, unless you're on the other side. New to technical analysis? This is the place to start. And experienced traders take advantage of the trend like never before. Experience the power of the Rhodes Momentum Indicator each day, available to subscribers of my newsletter service, Mastering Probability. I guarantee your satisfaction for the next 30 days unconditionally, so there's no risk to you other than being on the wrong side of the trend. Mastering Probability, available on the homepage of TFNN.com. And folks, live with passion.
No matter where you listen to TFNN programming, we want you to know you can always access your favorite shows on demand through TFNN.com. TFNN airs live programming every market day from 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. Eastern, and you can view each program by accessing Tiger TV through our homepage. We even have an easy link for all mobile devices, including iPhones and iPads, located at the top right-hand corner of the TFNN homepage. You can use your smartphone to view Tiger TV, but if you don't have a mobile connection that can keep up with streaming live video, then you can simply visit TFNN.mobi in the browser of your smartphone for live streaming audio of all of our programs. The mission of TFNN is to educate our audience directly and interactively through our interactive website and radio call and talk shows. TFNN is able to teach all levels of investors the technical skills needed to trade in today's marketplace. In order to get the best information possible, TFNN has assembled the most respected financial minds in the country to provide the most current news and comprehensive advice available. TFNN.com. Educating investors. Yesterday's gone. Tomorrow's not here. What are you doing right now? Mindful Living with Allie Ford and Tom O'Brien.
Oh, sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah. I get a feeling that I never had before. No, I get a good feeling, yeah.
Welcome back to Mindful Living. Tom and I are talking about some healthy habits that you might adopt as a result of having a yoga practice. And we were just talking about the yamas, which is basically the first limb of the 8 limbs of yoga. And there are 5 of these now, and they have to do with how we control our behavior toward others, or basically how we treat others and the environment. And what I think is so cool about this, what makes so much sense to me, is that yoga, it's not dogma. It's not a religion. It doesn't say, act this way or you'll be punished.
No, which is cool. I absolutely, right.
I love that.
Even though people think it is. Some people think it is.
Some people erroneously think it is.
Zero.
It is definitely not.
Right.
Instead, yoga says, experiment with these. Give these a try.
Yes.
And notice how they make you feel.
Right.
So, in general, we should be able to, because we're all energy and we're all energetically connected.
Right.
We should feel it in our energy.
Yes.
When we are in accordance with this behavior and when we're not.
Right.
And I think when we get into them, that'll start to make a lot of sense.
It does make it. Yeah, no doubt.
It's an energetic thing, and I mean that's a fact.
And that's the world. That's everything.
It is.
It's everything.
It's everything, which is why and I'll say
when you don't have energy, that's it. You're done.
It's exactly right. That's your vitality. That's how you're alive.
Right.
And I'll say, when we get into this first limb, known as the yamas, there are 5 of them. And, you know, I think of people like Gandhi.
Yes.
You know, Gandhi was considered a great leader and a man who lived by peace. And he practiced a couple of the yamas that he talked about all the time. And just a couple of these can be enough to help you feel better. And so, again, they're open to anyone. And, you know, if any of what we say in this conversation makes sense to you, then, you know, take it and experiment with it. Practice. Just become aware, which is what yoga asks us to do, and see how it makes you feel. So the first yama is called ahimsa. Ahimsa. And this is one that my children know because I tell them stories. In fact, I've taught them all of these.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you can learn and you're teaching them simultaneously.
That's
They're
right.
really going to be smart.
You
That's
can
great.
tell them stories, you know, about what these mean, and it really resonates with children. Ahimsa means non-harming. So that seems pretty simple, right? Non-harming. I mean, what are some ways that we as human beings may cause harm to others, including animals in the environment? How would a person act if they're being harmful?
Oh, I mean, there's a million things you can do, right? You know, just disrespectful,
Right.
you know, physical,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah. Physical is, I mean, you think about the obvious, right? You can physically cause harm to someone. Another one, as you said, you can be disrespectful. I think of verbal harm. And
Verbal's big.
Yeah,
verbal's big.
Verbal is big. You know, a lot of people may say, I'm not a violent person, but are the words that you choose potentially hurtful? And this, you know, again, it doesn't mean this is easy. It might not be that easy, and it's not a change that we make overnight, but just to start becoming aware, it can be quite helpful. And then you go, ooh, I can't believe I just said that.
You know, it's a big one, too. Not caring. Really.
Exactly.
That, just saying nothing.
Yeah.
The other side of it, that is just as bad.
It's
Well,
just as
yeah,
bad.
Right.
It's true, which will totally play into sort of my bigger interpretation of ahimsa.
Okay.
You know, when you think about verbal abuse, you hear people say, boy, your words cut like a knife.
Right.
I mean, it's a word that you can say, and yet some people may literally, tangibly feel the pain of that word, that energetic release in their heart, which is just...
I would say that words could cut you more than a fist.
Yeah.
Realistically.
And mentally, right? It can be so hurtful and harmful.
Yeah, right. Break you down.
Exactly.
Right.
So ahimsa would say, you know, avoid obviously doing physical harm, verbally be aware of the words that we use, and even going deeper than that, the thoughts that we have.
Right.
So what types of thoughts, you know,
That's a
are
heavy
we
one.
having? It is a heavy one.
That's
are
a
we,
heavy one.
you know, in times of heated passion or anger, you may not say anything, you may not do anything, but you may be sitting there thinking really
So what do you do when that
harmful,
happens?
nasty thoughts.
What do you do when that happens?
And I'm human. It happens. It happens,
It
you know?
happens to me too. I'll tell you what happens. What do you do?
You know, with yoga, one of the practices is to, when you notice it, just try and think of the opposite.
Okay,
So if
right.
I'm thinking angry thoughts, I try and think of kind. If I think of something I'm not liking about some situation,
Right.
I try and find one thing in the situation that I
That's
do
good.
like. So it's actually a practice given to us in yoga, also by the sutras,
Right.
to think of the exact opposite when you notice the thoughts. And what I think is so interesting about this, you know, somebody can walk in the room and they don't have to say a word.
Yes.
Right? Our thoughts release energy.
Right.
They don't have to say a word, they don't have to do anything. But you can look at that person and
Right.
you can go, whoa,
Right.
what's wrong?
Right.
Just because you
No,
know
there's
that
no
something
doubt.
they're thinking
Yeah, there's no doubt.
is heavy or potentially negative.
Right.
So what do you do when you catch yourself having
Well, there's
negative thoughts?
there's a couple different things. I use cancel a lot.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's very good, actually.
Yeah, and that's just it's like, but what also happens is this, and this is where I think it really comes to the core that, you know, you get enough experience understanding energy and putting it into your own mind and say, what am I even doing to myself?
Yes.
You know, and so what ends up happening in the course of that is that, oh, man, you know, no matter how bad it is, like, you know, cancel. And I say, why am I doing that? You know, because you know that you're putting it right into yourself at the same time.
Definitely.
And like anything else, if you keep edging away at something, well, guess what? Those thoughts will do something to you, whether it's the energy, your looks,
Illness.
all of that. You know what I mean? So
Definitely.
you know, and it's a big one.
It is a big one.
It's a big one.
That's, it's amazing you said that, yeah, because, you know, there's even a saying that your thoughts can cause disease, right? And we've talked a lot about that on our shows about meditation, that, you know, stress, which starts in the mind, is causing so many doctor's visits and illnesses. I mean, that's psychosomatic. So if you believe that your thoughts, you know, carry energy, and that energy pervades everything, including yourself, ourself, including the air, the space in between, and the people around us.
And it does.
It definitely does. Then if they're negative, you don't want to put that negative energy into yourself or others. It just makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So when I think about ahimsa, the word, now the reason that, you know, ahimsa is so important, it's because it's the first of the 5 yamas. So the author of the text, Patanjali, the Yoga Sutras, was well known for putting words in the order of importance. So ahimsa sets the stage for the other 4, right? For all the yamas.
Yes.
So everything should be based on nonviolence. And if you break down the word, himsa means to harm. The Sanskrit root is himsa, which means harm. You put an A in front of it, it means not to harm. So if you take it one step further, I think it's a lovely way to think about it, is not to harm, or the exact opposite of harming. What's the exact opposite of causing harm to someone? It's to love them.
Right.
And just as you said, to not care can also be a form of harming.
Sure, right.
So it could definitely inform the way that we behave, the way that we interact with others, and man, it just feels good, you know?
No, that's right. The return is immediate.
It is.
The return's immediate, and what I think it also does is that I think most times when, and I'm talking personally, most times if in fact I'm not operating like I want to operate, I'm not focused, I'm not here, I'm thinking about something else and saying I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and that's a problem.
That's right.
You know,
I totally understand.
And then all of a sudden you're thinking something, you're saying something that you normally wouldn't be saying.
Yeah, it's usually a snowball effect.
Right.
Our thoughts, you know, we have one negative thought, and then if you talk about one of my favorite meditation teachers, Mathieu Ricard. He's a French, he was a French neuroscientist who turned Buddhist monk.
Okay.
I know, he's so
pretty cool.
brilliant.
I like that. Yeah, totally.
He talks about when you have these negative thoughts, you know, a negative thought comes in, and if we start thinking about all the things, the situations that cause that thought, or, you know, I can't believe he said that, or why would he say that, and where is that coming from, and, you know, who is that person to talk to me that way, and how am I going to respond to that person? It's like adding logs to the fire until the flames explode, or pouring kerosene.
Right.
But as you said, if you can use a word like cancel, or try to just, you know, become aware immediately. Once you're aware, you're back.
Yes.
You're present again. Yeah. Can't believe I'm having these thoughts. And then think of something positive. Think of the opposite, or take a few deep breaths, and,
that's a great
it'll
one.
pass.
I think I told you this before. I had a 6th grade nun, Sister Ralph, and I'm not kidding. And she told us this story, and it was like, I won't tell the whole story, but the bottom line is at the end of the story was, listen, if you can't say something good about them, don't say anything. And the thing was, hey, they had good teeth, and this person was terrible, but I always remember that. But it's a fact. It's real.
Yeah.
You know, it's real.
It is, and it's a lovely thing, you know, that you could do even with children. So now a lot of parents out there are listening, and
sure.
I think you know, one, if we start to catch our temper flare, and let's face it, we're parents, it can happen. Then we can use tips like, instead of yelling, whisper. You know. Or if if you catch your child saying something mean to the other child, you can say, all right, that's it. Think of one thing you like about your sister.
That's cool.
You know, give your sister a compliment right now. You know, tell her you love her. Just have them choose. Like you said, oh, you have nice teeth, you know?
Right.
Okay, that counts.
Right. It counts, no doubt, right?
It does. So ahimsa, it's a lovely practice that is not to cause harm, and it just starts with being self-aware of, as we say, our words, our actions, our deeds, and our thoughts. What are we putting out there energetically? And remember that energy is contagious because we're all connected. If you're in the presence of your children or of your friends or your family, remember how much you love them. And, you know, we want to send healing energy to those around us.
We know.
Not
Listen,
harmful.
It's immediate.
It is immediate. And they feel it. We all feel it. And we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we've got Jamie from Palm Harbor on the line, and Jamie is going to join us for the discussion on the yamas and ethical principles of yoga. So stay right there. We'll be right back.
You take a hands-on approach to managing your investment strategy. You're always looking for the next trading opportunity to magnify your perspective. Direction Shares connects sophisticated traders with a powerful array of ETFs from a wide range of asset classes. The markets may go up and down, and you want tools for both sides of the trade. Discover how we can help at DirectionShares.com today. An investor should consider the investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the Direction Shares carefully before investing. The prospectus and summary prospectus contain this and other information about Direction Shares. To obtain a prospectus or summary prospectus, please contact Direction Shares at 800-851-0511. The prospectus or summary prospectus should be read carefully before investing. An investment in the funds is subject to risk, including the possible loss of principal. The funds are designed to be utilized only by sophisticated investors such as traders and active investors employing dynamic strategies. Investors in the fund should understand the consequences of seeking daily investment results, understand the risk of shorting, and intend to actively monitor and manage their investments. Distributor, Foreside Fund Services, LLC.
Who says you can't take it with you? TFNN says you can. With your mobile device and TFNN's live radio streams, TFNN has put it all in the palm of your hands. No special apps to download. No subscription fees for live radio or Tiger TV streams. We say you can.
Now let's go over to the dollar, because the dollar is going to be the generator. It is the generator of basically higher dollar, lower market. And what the dollar has done, and this whole uptrend, folks, has just gone sideways. The way it works, folks, is this.
We say you can. The Tiger Financial News Network. Smart investors and professional traders know you can. TFNN.com. Educating investors. Life is a mystery to be lived, not a problem to be solved. Mindful Living with Allie Ford and Tom O'Brien.
Oh, sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah. I get a feeling that I never had before. No, I get a good feeling, yeah.
Welcome back to Mindful Living. Folks, we're just talking about some healthy habits yoga can help us establish to lead a more peaceful life and overcome suffering. We've got Jamie from Palm Harbor on the line. Jamie, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Allie. How are you?
Doing really well. Lovely to hear from you.
Well, okay. I'm a practicing yogi and fairly familiar with the yamas, and the first four definitely have under control. It's the last one, non-attachment. I want to hear your thoughts on that one, please.
Good question. So the last one that Jamie's referring to is called aparigraha.
Okay.
Aparigraha, which means non-hoarding. And I laugh because I get it. You know, when we talk about this in yoga teacher training, we say you have to ask yourself that dreaded question when you go out to acquire things or take more things into your life, and that is, do I need this or do I want this? And this is that.
And then you have to take care of it.
And then you have to decide.
Which is just more things to do.
Yeah, and you know, I think just establishing that practice, it helps us be aware of how much we are taking from the environment, because everything that we bring into our life comes from some natural resource in the world. And so one, it helps us just be more aware of, you know, are we being wasteful of things? And there is a statistic out there that shows it's over 90% of things that we acquire ends up in a landfill within 30 days. So I think it teaches us that attitude of reverence, right? To be grateful and to just be aware of how much we're taking. But also at the same time, if you look at non-hoarding. So Jamie, have you seen that show, Hoarding?
Thank goodness, no.
It really,
familiar.
It is. You may know people in your life. I know a lot of us talk about, you know, we have people in our life, or we have friends or contacts who that could technically be considered a hoarder, who just have a really hard time letting go of things. And so a parigraha would be a really strong form of non-attachment, and that is to just look at the external things in our lives that we're acquiring and that we're holding on to. You know, are we bringing these things into our life to fill a hole that may be existing in our heart? You know, do we need to look within and fill ourselves up from within, or are we constantly looking outside of ourselves to fill our happiness with external things? Which, as we know, I mean, yoga teaches that eternal joy comes from within the heart.
Jamie, what do you get attached to?
Oh, purses, yoga pants, the usual.
Listen, you can't have enough purses and yoga pants. I wouldn't be worrying about that. Seriously.
I think a good way to look at it, you know, so you like to have nice things. What happens when those things become no longer usable? Do you keep them in a drawer or shove them in a box and throw them in the garage, or can you let go of them?
Actually, I can let go of them easily. I take them to a consignment store.
Yeah. So I think that's a really good way to start practicing non-hoarding. I mean, hoarding is holding on to something, and I think as I say, it can be a sign that that we're not finding that light, that spirit inside of ourselves when we can't let go of something that is external to ourselves. You know, there's another consideration, I think, for anyone listening who might have a hard time. There's a saying in yoga that the less we have, the more we have ourselves. And by that we mean...
That's a fact.
What's the, you know, how many things are you having to take care of? When we take on so much responsibility and so many things, it's just more and more to take care of, which can, again, direct our attention outside of ourselves. So that's one way to look at it. And then secondly, you may be familiar with the Chinese practice of feng shui, which would say you need to have the energy around you. The state of your life outside of you is a state of the life inside of you, the state of mind that you're in. And if, you know, your surroundings are in a state of disarray, it could be a sign that your mind is unsettled. So as long as, if you are acquiring nice things, when, one, you have the awareness that, you know, am I being wasteful? Do I need a 50th pair of yoga pants? Can I say no? That would be a healthy attitude, you know? Yes, I can say no, and then, you know, that would be an energetic shift. Or do I have to have them or I won't be happy? I won't be satisfied. Would be a good way to look at it. With that awareness, I can have the pants or not, and I'm still happy. And then when you do acquire things, to be able to let them go when they're no longer useful, or you find that things in your life are seeming crowded or weighting down, would be another really healthy way to practice aparigraha. Does that help?
That makes a lot of sense. Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you for calling, Jamie. It's great to talk with you. Have a great night. Namaste.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jamie.
Namaste.
Bye-bye.
That's a tough one for people.
Well, you know what's interesting? So check this out. I have like 2 big boxes right now, a bunch of clothes. You know, nice clothes that I've worn, right? And I don't wear them anymore. And I know I'm going to can them all.
Yeah.
So picture this. I probably have, I don't know, 7 or 8 different things I like to wear, and that's it, right? But now, so there's a button inside this, because I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to can them all, and then stop buying some other stuff. But I won't. But I accumulate that. No, but I accumulated for a while. But this gets interesting because I never thought of this before. Well, I did, because I was saying this to Bridget the other night. I said, whatever those clothes are right now, that is not the energy. That it doesn't matter.
Right.
So it's really crazy because you know, I mean, someone will have them, but it's intriguing. Do you know what I'm saying? I say, wow, man. You know, I used to like that, and I don't like it anymore.
Yeah, it is interesting, and I think
it doesn't even feel right.
It doesn't keep it.
Yeah. No, just in general. Period. I know.
To let it go? Is it hard to let it go?
Oh
or
no, it's not. No, I can let stuff go.
That's good.
I can let stuff go.
And I think, too, when we think about, you know, and not just being wasteful, if it's something that we're no longer using but that someone else can use,
I know.
That's a form of giving back.
Right.
I mean, think of how many people, you know, need a clean shirt. How many people need, like you said, a clean pair of pants. So aparigraha, if you look at non-hoarding, you know, then it is letting go of things, and you can share those things with other people.
Sure.
That's it. Like Jamie said, she takes her things to a consignment shop, or, you know, you make a donation, and that's then turning those things that you no longer use, rather than wasting them, into something that can be quite useful for other people. And what's interesting is aparigraha, as the last of the yamas, right? It's the 5th, is an extension of the 3rd yama. So the yama is the first limb. There are 5 practices within yama. And one of those is called asteya, which is it means non-stealing. And really, yeah, you think of the simple ways we steal. You could take things that aren't yours. You could take credit for work that's not yours. You could take credit for someone else's words that they said that you didn't come up with, or you could steal someone's energy. But I think a bigger picture form of asteya. So steya means stealing. Put an A in front, it means not to steal. Or bigger picture, what's the opposite of stealing? It's to give.
Yeah, right.
To give.
Cool. Yeah, I see. Just like
ahimsa,
right,
So, all right, if you think of everything we use in life, it's all coming from somewhere. I think this one really informs our way of being grateful for what comes from our environment. I mean, everything we use comes from the earth, from some natural resource.
Right.
And I think all of us need to become more aware of what we're stealing from our environment without giving back.
Right.
Right, without giving back.
And
because it's leading to the demise of the planet.
And it's easier life. You get rewarded for it immediately.
It's true.
Because then you're not sitting there saying, okay, what am I going to get today? Get 50 shirts. Who knows? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, let's take the same one again. We'll get rid of the rest of them.
Yeah.
Just a small example.
Yeah.
So what is the number 2 one?
The second one is called satya.
Satya.
Satya means truthfulness. So this means speak the truth. But we have to remember that all of these yamas are based on the first one of ahimsa, or non-harming.
Right.
So we have to find a way to speak the truth, and if we choose to speak the truth, we have to choose to do it sweetly. So sweet words.
Right.
Based on ahimsa, right? Non-harming.
Sweet words, yes.
So this one can be tough for people because I've had yoga students ask, well, what if, somebody tells you a secret,
yes,
and then the next person says, well, did so-and-so tell you what's going on with them? And you want to tell a little white lie.
Wow.
A little white lie, and you say, no, I don't have a clue. Well, again, if you revert back to the energetic feeling of these things, you feel it, right? And there are experts out there who can read when you're lying based on physiological, biological responses in our body. The twitching of the eyes, the way our head moves, if we blink, if we tense up. Even little white lies require a lot of energy to carry around.
Wow. Yeah, no, I can, yeah.
It's tough.
Oh, yeah.
It's tough. It really makes you think. And I have to say, I feel like if you do start telling little white lies, it becomes a lot to keep track of.
It's way too much to keep track of.
What did I tell so-and-so? And, I got to be honest with you. Even I grapple sometimes even with the, the stories we tell our kids.
Right.
And, I remember when we had the child psychologist show on, the challenges teens face today, and we talked about how do we talk about drugs and our experience with our children.
I didn't agree with that guy at all.
I know. You even said then, I feel like we need to be truthful.
Right.
And I think that it is interesting because it's an energetic connection. And
well, if people are going to trust you, okay, especially your children, not everyone, but your children, it's like, hold it, you got to have the guts to tell them the truth.
It's true.
And it's in the right environment. Mm-hmm. There's no doubt. But the truth, as I say, sets you free.
Exactly. The truth sets you free.
Right.
Yeah. And that once you can be truthful, your life can be an open book, and it does lead to great freedom of suffering.
Well, what it does also, okay, it's interesting. You just come up with something about it's an open book. What I've seen happens is that when you're truthful, the part of being truthful about things that you really don't want people to know.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Which there's always there.
Right.
Is that, it's like, that's it. Take it or leave it. I'm being cocky a little there, but it really not. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, well, I can't do anything about it. You know what I mean? That's the way it is.
Well, and I think, too, if that's your prerogative, whether or not you want people to know about you, that's up to you. But I do think there's a way to be even truthful about those things you don't want people to know about. So say someone asks you, have you ever had this experience that you really don't want to share? You could say yes, but I prefer not to tell you.
Oh, and that's awesome. Yeah, no,
so
totally.
I think a lot of people would immediately, because of self-defense mechanism, lie. No, that's never happened to me. I've never done that. But we could say, yes, I have had that experience.
There's nothing
but
wrong
I'm
with
not comfortable talking about it.
Right, there's nothing wrong with telling people it's none of your business. You know what blows my mind? No, I'm not kidding. What blows my mind sometimes, right, is that the aspect of, it's just such a nonchalant thing. Well, how much did you pay for this? How much did you pay? Well, what difference does it do? That, you know, and that's normal now.
Right.
It's like, so it's normal, like, I don't, you know, it's none of your business.
Yeah, or, you know, based on ahimsa,
I know.
You could say.
I think I need a few classes in this. No, because you know what happens? I don't mean it, but what does happen, I get this, like, I don't know. Sometimes those words come out. And it's an abruptness.
And you can be maybe flabbergasted that somebody would even have the gall to ask that question.
Well, I don't do the abruptness on purpose. That's even worse, though. Do you know what I mean? It's like, okay, hold it.
Maybe, but, you know, it's interesting. Part of it, I was on the phone today with someone from New York about my children's book that we were making some changes. And you know how there can be a lot lost in translation, if you want, communication.
Sure.
Her tone's just different.
Right.
I'm from the South, and I tend to be, you know, when I'm talking to people I don't know and just trying not to bother them, if you will. And she's like, look, it's like this, you know. Here's the answer, and that's how it goes.
Right.
And I'm sure she didn't mean to be
she didn't. No,
offensive. But she was just telling me like it was, you know, and so we have to also be careful to not take on energy that, you know, is not serving us, if you will. There's a whole nother conversation we could have about that. But you do bring up a good point, and that is if somebody asks you something that is quote-unquote none of their business, you know, it's okay to tell them that in a kind way and to say,
right,
you know, I appreciate you asking. I can see how you might be curious about that, but at this point, I don't feel comfortable talking about it.
Right.
And then done. And you've been honest, right?
Right. No, totally. And most of that comes in the context we're just saying whether they're asking about one of your friends, they're asking about something else. They're asking about gossip, basically. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
That has happened. It's like, who knows? You know
I tell you,
mean?
people ask me all the time, how do I use the yamas? And one of the ways is gossip. I used to not be so sensitive to gossip, but since studying the yamas and the niyamas, when we get to the niyamas, which we won't have time for today, which is personal practices, the first one is saucha, which means purity.
Okay.
Again, purity of thought, word, deed, even purity of, you know, keeping your environment clean, noticing the food that you put into your body, being sure that it's as clean as possible, pure. I am so sensitive to people even in passing saying things about other people. And don't get me wrong, it's not that I am not, you know, I don't succumb to it sometimes, but I tend to, as we say, become more aware more quickly.
Right.
And say, you know, and ask myself this question, do I want to be a part of this conversation right now?
No, I know.
It's not good energy.
Well, and what happens, I always, so always, the way that I try to do it nicely sometimes, no, I do. But I say, well, that's a third party. Does someone else tell you that? I can't stand a third party deal.
Yeah.
A third party deal, I think, gets everyone in trouble on a continual basis.
I agree.
Because, you know, it's that one thing. One person said something, and then by the time it gets to the third or fourth person, it's a whole different story.
Right, right.
And it's like, why? Why don't we just, you know, why don't you talk about, you know, what's going on with you? What's going on with me? What's going on here? Versus, you know, and...
Why don't you just go to the source? Hey, I have a question for you. And then that person has the right to tell you or not.
Yeah, right.
So we have to get to the last one. We only have a few minutes.
Good.
And this one always stirs up a lot of conversation. It's called brahmacharya. Brahmacharya, as it's translated, technically means sexual control or abstinence. So you have to remember these...
Sexual control is abstinence.
Abstinence.
Okay.
Which, you know, coming from the time of the sutras, which is 150 BC,
right.
You know, it was probably taken quite literally. So these days, you know, Krishnamacharya said that for yoga to survive, it's going to have to evolve with the changing needs of its practitioners. Look at the society, at least here in the West. You know, more and more people are waiting longer to get married, or they're not getting married. And, you know, often brahmacharya would also be used to practice abstinence or only have sexual intimate relations with someone to whom you were married. So, you know, the world's changing. Now, I will say a lot of teachers will translate brahmacharya to mean moderation. Everything in moderation and you'll be good. That's not what it means. It still means some sort of sexual abstinence or control. And really the best way I can make this applicable to today's life is A, respect yourself right? Engage in intimate relations in a way that doesn't zap your energy or is not self-defeating or disrespectful to yourself.
Right.
And then you also have to take that attitude toward others. So engage in intimate relations with someone in a way that allows you to connect with the divine in them. Because that, getting intimate with someone is, let's face it, a very sweet experience.
Right.
And it should be. Even if it's crazy fun, it should still be a sweet experience. So to connect with someone in a way that allows you to see the divine energy in that person.
Yeah, because that's where the ultimate energy comes, that, from 2 to 1, and that turn takes place. And then, and the reality is that if, in fact, depending where you are on the scale of what you think energy is,
yes,
right?
Yes.
You're either going to expend it, expend it, I think, on a lot of different experiences, and you're not going for that one full energy, mentally, spiritually, the whole ball of wax. It's, you're going to get what you want.
It's very well said.
Right.
It is very well said. Yeah, because, if you read the sutras, it does say that when we engage and release sexual fluid, that some of our vital energy is released.
That
and
makes
so,
sense.
as you say, what's the intention? Where is that energy going? Is
Right.
it wasted? Is it draining you? Or is it, used in a way that you're connecting, bonding energy from 2 to 1? And uniting with
what's
someone.
interesting about that is that I wonder, when this was done, was that a control mechanism also? Because, inside most churches, that's a control mechanism.
Yes.
For control of masses of people.
Yeah, and it really is. You look at the caste who was practicing yoga, the Brahmins, and they were Brahmin priests. And so you can, use the sexual energy, redirect the energy. If you're using brahmacharya, or sexual continence,
yes,
to conserve energy, you can redirect it upward rather than downward.
Okay.
Redirect it upward toward spiritual pursuits.
Right.
So it is one way that brahmacharya can be used by people who are, practicing continence or devoting their life to God, which, let's face it, there's still monks and nuns out there who do that.
Well, what's intriguing, too, is that when you bring that to, like boxers, okay, I'm not sure, I haven't followed it lately, but the reality, whether it's Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali, Frazier, all those guys, when they were big boxers, there was always those articles that no abstinence.
Exactly, before the big game.
Oh,
not just boxers. So you do.
Right.
It takes a lot of energy.
Right.
So with that, remember, anybody can practice yoga regardless of your background, and hopefully some of what we said today is useful to you. Check out my website for more information. It's allieford.com. I've got some great upcoming events, and until next week, have a safe and wonderful 4th of July. Thanks for joining us. Namaste.
Have a great one, folks.
This is TFNN.